All right, guys, so another shir today. And today we're going to be discussing a very important question, a very fundamental question to our lives. And it's a very broad topic. And obviously we're not going to be able to get into the entirety of all of it today. But this is going to be the general idea of how to look at life, how to look at how we should go about our life. And the question is, what is our purpose in this world? What should we be focusing on a personal level? You know, everyone's living in this world, and we're trying to figure out what should we as individuals be working on, be focusing on, be building in ourselves. And it's not an easy question. And there's for our personal being and for who we are and how to make ourselves grow and be the best person that we could be. So what should we be focusing on? So to this question, there are basically two famous answers that are given. And they seem to be contradictory. But the first answer that is given is that a person should look at his strengths, look at his qualities, look at what he has going for him, his assets, his abilities, his skills, and focus on that and build those up. Be the best person you could be in that way. Take what Hashem gave you and use it to serve God in the greatest way and to build yourself up as the best person you could be. That is the first answer that is given. The second answer that is given, and this is given by many of the Bali Musar and the Hasidic masters, the Gra and the Rabbi Melech and others, say that our purpose in this world is to break our teva, break our nature, break the things that are hard for us to do in order to do it better. Focus on the things that we struggle with and perfect them. Make that which is hard for us and difficult for us and work on ourselves really, really hard to break that bad midah, break that habit, break that struggle. That is really what Hashem put us in this world to do. And that is your number one goal. Now, on the outset, this looks contradictory. Should we be focusing on the good things that we have to build ourselves up, to make ourselves the best person we could be, to focus on our good, and spend our days working in bettering that? Or should we spend our lives focusing on our struggles and working on ourselves through musar and through learning and through growing and really, really breaking those habits? And this is the big question basically everyone asks when they have this conversation, because there seems to be two different focuses. Now the simple answer and the basic idea is that you would have to work on both, obviously. But I want to really focus in and explore a little bit more, really, what does this mean? What does it mean that a person has things that he's good at, things that he's bad at? Where is it coming from? And how does one go about actually fixing it? And on the one hand, making your life better with things you do have. And on the other hand, how do you really go about focusing on breaking your midah, breaking your teva, breaking your nature? So, I want to suggest that really, it's not a contradiction at all. And that really, if you go deeper, you'll see that it's really just one big thing. And let me explain. So, imagine, we're going to go with the easy case first. Imagine a person has a lot of money. And he also has a temperament, a character trait, that he likes to give. That he enjoys giving. That he enjoys being a virtuous person. He enjoys being a giving person. So this person, obviously, is going to spend his days in, let's say, philanthropy. Because on the one hand, his character traits and his desires is to be giving, and he has, let's say, money to do so. So he's going to use his money to do good. Now this person is using what he has, what Hashem gave him in both character and ability, to do a good thing. Now let's say that exact same person has a certain struggle. So that exact person has a certain struggle. And that struggle is that when he comes home at night, he's very difficult on his kids. He's very hard on his family. He's very harsh on his family. He's very, demanding. He doesn't have so much compassion. He doesn't have so much of course, I'm not talking about somebody who doesn't love his, of course he loves his kids, but he's very, very rough on his kids. And this is something that happens, right? And this person, people, if they look through his whole life, could ask, and himself, he could ask, how could this be? On the outside, I'm this virtuous guy, I'm giving, I'm caring, I give a lot of charity, I help organizations, I work hard, I make a living, and I use a lot of what I have to help others. On the other hand, when I come home, my personal life, it just seems to be contradictory. I don't have that level of compassion. I don't have that level of caring. Opposite, I come home and I'm very demanding of my children, and I'm a little bit harsh on them, and I use strong words, and I create a little bit of environment of intensity. How could this be? How could these contradictions exist in my life? So, the simple way is to understand that yes, you're caring, yes, you're giving, but on the other hand, you have an anger issue, let's say, or you have this type of flare-up issue that you just can't control yourself. But if you go deeper, you see that that's actually not exactly what is at the root of the issue. At the root of the issue, the person has to understand, and each one of us, I'm just giving an example because this is a very basic example, but it comes out in many ways. A person has to understand, what is it that's driving him? What is his driving force in this world? Now, it doesn't have to be one, but what is a driving force in this world, for example, in this case, that makes me want to give charity? What is really at the core of it? So we started off with the very basic, I'm giving, I care about others, I want to do the right thing. But really, these are what I just said were different things. And there are many, many different reasons why a person may want to give charity. And all of them are good. So a person says, I want to do good. Well, what does that mean you want to do good? Well, I want to help others. Well, why do you want to help others? Well, let's suppose this guy wants to help others because he grew up in a mindset that Hashem gave me something. I was blessed with good things. I was blessed with an ability to make money. I was blessed with skills that could be able to generate money. And I have this money. And the right thing to do, and the honest thing to do, and the yashrous thing to do is to help others. Because this is what I was taught. And this is what really is ingrained in me as what is good. So at the core of his giving is not only that I just want to give to others, but it's this sense of responsibility, this sense of self-value, that self-value says that someone who has money and someone who's able to help others should help others. So we see that things that could be coming out as goodness could be coming really from a place of, let's say, justice, or honesty, or integrity. So on the outside it looks like, hey, I'm just a good guy. But really at the core of it, it's not just I want to be a good guy. I need to be a good guy because this is what's important to me. This is what's valuable to me. This is what I know to be right. And if I don't give that money, that's not right. That's not just. Now if the person looks a little deeper, and again it's an example and you could give thousands of examples of this, but I'm just giving a basic simple one. If a person looks deeper into himself, and he sees this contradiction in his life. I'm a good, caring guy, I'm loving, everyone loves me, I give money, I write big checks. And I really care about it. I'm not talking about the guy who's just doing it so his name should be on the wall. He really is doing it as a virtuous act of chesed. But it's coming from a place of self-discipline, of self-responsibility, which is also good. But that's at the core of what he's driving him to do this chesed. Now this same person goes home, and he's using that same base. People have responsibilities in this world. People have jobs in this world they got to get done. We're not here to play games. We have to raise our children with responsibility. We have to raise our children to be doers. We have to raise our children to be people who are going to be able to set themselves up to make money in order to help others. This is our responsibility in this world. Because this is, after all, what God gave us. All good. But here comes the problem. That passion, that excitement, that value, that expectation is now put on his kids. Now that's not the problem, but the problem is that sometimes that exact passion could turn out to come out in a form of anger. How? Because this is the way it should be. How could you not be doing this? How could you, kid, be fooling around, not getting good grades in your class, or not behaving like a mensch, or not being the person that is expected of you when there's so much goodness in your life. God has given you so much goodness, so much kindness. We put you in the best schools. We've given you the best tutors. We've given you the best life. Look at your beautiful bedroom. Wake up in the morning and you got to do what you got to do. Now, there's nothing wrong with, obviously, what I just said, but what you're hearing is the tone. And the tone has now developed this justice and this righteousness, which is truly just and right, has now developed into the person's anger. And you're angry because the kid is not behaving, or your wife is not living up to expectations, or your partner at work, who we got to do this, we got to go get it, and he's, in your vision, slacking off. Now, each one of these cases are obviously different, and I'm not comparing the different cases. I'm just saying that it's this passion that's underlining the same passion that he has for giving, and the same exact passion that he has for doing good is the exact passion that turns him into a tyrant in other cases. Let's give another example, and this is a very, very different example. I know we can give examples from today till tomorrow. A person is extremely emotional, extremely caring. He loves everyone. He can't watch somebody suffer. It's so hard for him to watch other people suffer. He really, really has compassion on other people. He's a sensitive soul. We know people like this. They're just really sensitive people. They want goodness in the world. They want kindness. They want again, justice from a place. Everyone should be equal. No one should have to suffer. And this drives them to do good. This drives them to try to make the world as good as possible. And let's say the guy doesn't have money, he has a lot of time. Let's just give another example. And he's trying to build organizations to help orphans and to help almanas. And he's trying to make organizations that help people struggling and people without money. And he's just trying to help everybody. And he does very, very well. And he has this amazing organization. And he's such a caring, loving person. And everyone loves him and he's the kindest person. But behind the scenes, no one realizes that he has a real bad addiction. He's a drug addict. He's a real, real drug addict. I don't know what type of drug, doesn't make a difference. And he can't live without these drugs. And a person looks at this, people from the outside, or himself, looks, I'm doing so much good for the world. I'm helping the world so much. I have these organizations. Everyone comes to me. All the orphans knock on my door. All the almanas, the widows, they come to me. But really inside, I'm like this broken person. How could this be? How could this be? What's wrong? Your life is not good enough. You're not doing it. What's the problem? Why do you have to... Now again, addiction comes from many different things, but I'm just giving exactly, it's very specific, one example. And what is the problem? You're so caring, you're so loving, you're so smiley. Everyone loves you, you're so cheerful. Everywhere you turn, you're just so sensitive to everybody. Always trying to help. And yet you can't even function in your day-to-day life. But again, it's that extreme, sometimes it can be that extreme inability to cope with the struggle of this world. The extreme inability to handle seeing suffering, to handle seeing people persecuted, to handle seeing people have extreme issues, that you just can't take it. And it's that passion that leads you to bad things. Not because you're a bad person, far from it, you're a great person. But you're unable to control that midah, you're unable to control your character trait of compassion, that you just had so much compassion on the whole world that you just couldn't look at the world anymore without getting yourself high, without numbing yourself to the issues of the world. And again, we can go on and on. I'll give you one more example, and that's it. But the last example will be, let's say, a person with netzach. So a person of netzach means a person who is victorious. He's a leader. He's strong. And this strong person, the same idea, uses his strength to build, to conquer, to help those who are suffering. The strong people, a lot of times, they'll go to the poor and the needy, and they're going to take care of them. They're going to be careful for them. They're going to look out for them. They're going to be kind to them. They're going to build for them. And they're going to make sure to build for everybody. And they're going to build companies that are going to help the world. But if you get in that guy's way, if you try to backstab that guy, he could be the most intense, tyrannical person who nothing will get in his way. He'll run you down, he'll mow you down in the street if he has to. Right? You know guys like that, you're smiling, you know guys like that. Okay, so on the outside you look at this person and say, what is this contradiction over here? I'm painting it for you in a very, linear light. But you look at these people, you say, the compassion, tzedakah giver, crazy dad. The beautiful person with the light, helping, overdoses on drugs, God forbid. How could this be without, the person who's always championing people's causes, always looking out for everybody, runs over his neighbor on the block because, he stole his parking spot. Whatever. How could this be? So on the outside, it looks like, okay, he's a good guy, he has good things, and he has issues. That could, that is true. But if you look at the core of the goodness, and you look at the core of the problem, I'm giving examples where it comes from the same thing. Because otherwise it will get too crazy. But really it can come from different midas. It doesn't have to be the person has one midah and that defines his whole life. But let's just keep it simple. It can literally come from the same character trait. The passion that gets him going to do good is the same passion that if you get in his way, forget about it. The passion that gives him that compassion and that love is exactly that passion that just makes him intolerable to the world. Makes himself not tolerate the world because the world is so full of injustice, so full of struggle, so full of pain. I can't take it. I'm trying to help, but it's just too much for me. The passion that lets him champion other people's causes is the same passion that makes him champion his own causes in very extreme ways. So what's the point? The point of the matter is that when we're talking about taking what Hashem gave us, we have to realize, where is that coming from? What is that character trait that Hashem gave us? How are we building it up? It's by making sure that what Hashem gave us, the midot, the character traits, the values, the temperaments, the love that we have, that we're into things, we have to make sure that is controlled. That is being used for real good. Because of course we know that people could be good and they could use it for the wrong things. We could be good and be giving money to the wrong people, or they could be spending all their money on things that are not appropriate. So they're using their good ideologies and their good midot, but it's too good. And then it becomes not for the right things. So you have to balance that. You have to control that. And you have the other way, where that exact midah, that exact character trait, could be your biggest enemy, could be your biggest struggle. Because of that desire to give, it's because of that desire to be straight, it's that because of that desire for yashrus, that you end up being a tyrant. They end up forcing it on others. They ended up being a crazy father who's screaming at his kids, get to sleep, get to bed, wake up, get to school. Of course the father has to father his kids, that's not the point. But the point is that how he does it. And it's his desire to do good. It's his desire that his kid should be like he is. Because he's, after all, righteous. That pushes him to the other extreme, which is whatever that extreme is. So when we see from the great rabbis that our job in this world is to focus on our good and build on that, and focus on our bad, it's a very deep thing. It's because those things that we struggle with most, and those things that we're very, very good at, is at the core what our midah is, what our main temperament is, what our main focus in life is. Because if someone doesn't have a struggle with something, or if someone is not good at something, he doesn't relate to that thing. He doesn't struggle with it, he doesn't relate to it. He has no connection with it. If you're struggling with something, that means that you have a relationship with, at the core of what that thing is, what's causing that struggle. If you don't struggle with it, and you're not particularly good at it, it's not meaningful in your life. It's not part of who you are. I'll give an example. A person has no struggle at all, not good or bad, with not eating not kosher. Food is not his thing. Kosher food, not kosher food, doesn't mean anything to him. It's not his struggle. He's not a particular foodie. He's not particularly into that type of enjoyment. So in that way, whatever the core of someone's struggle for not kosher food, he doesn't relate to that. So that's not something he should be working on. This is not part of his makeup, his emotional and spiritual makeup. This has nothing to do with him. But the person, for example, who does have struggle with eating kosher, he loves food, and he I'm giving a very physical thing, but at the core of that, there has to be some good. There has to be some character trait that's pushing that. And people would say, it's just laziness, it's just taiva. Sometimes, but even the taiva is coming because the taiva, the lust, is coming because of something that's pushing you. Some sort of energy you have in you that's pushing you to have that particular taiva over that particular taiva. That particular lust, that particular addiction, that particular, you're chasing after that particular thing over that particular thing. So really at the core of it, if you want to know what your biggest strengths are, in its core, is look at what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and look at what you're bad at. Look at what you struggle with. Because in that place too, you also have tremendous potential. It's just being used not in the right way. It's not balanced. You're using it in the wrong way. You're using it with the mindset of arrogance, with the mindset of anger, with the mindset of pleasure, of lust. Not for the right things. But at the core of it, it's coming from a good place, or at least a place called a midah. And this is the idea that we have to look at. We have to look at ourselves and say, who are we? You want to know who we are? What are our job in this world? What are we good at? And what are we bad at? And that's really who we are. And Hashem expects us, and we will feel fulfilled when we understand where we are coming from, what our desires are, what our core needs are, what our core values are, and make sure that it's not being used for too much good in the wrong way, too much bad in the bad way, and it's always being balanced. And it's not always going to be, every situation is going to be different. Sometimes you're going to have to use a little bit more of this, and sometimes you have to use a little bit more on that way. And of course, I'm simplifying it by using one midah, but really we have many midot. And each one of us have 7 basic midot. Now some of them are stronger, some of them are weaker for each of us, some of them we're more focused on, some of them we're less focused on. But there are 1 or 2 of each person that he has, that this defines who he is. And we use the other ones to push that one a little bit this way, to push that one back a little bit that way. So we have to, so of course, if let's say we're a person primarily of chesed, for example, so we need to use a little bit of gevura. We're a little bit of kindness, we're mainly kindness, but sometimes we need to use a little bit of that gevura to push ourselves back a little bit. But I want to give. No, but in this place giving is not good. Or sometimes, like the first example I gave, where really it looks like kindness, but it's kindness coming from a place of gevura. Coming from a place of this is right, this is just, this is the way it needs to be. This is the way I have to behave. So when I come home at night, I have to put a little chesed into it. My children aren't up to that yet. For this child, this is going to be too much for him. For this child, he needs a little bit of a different thing. Yes, I gave him a beautiful bedroom. Yes, he has everything he needs in his life. But where's the compassion? Where are we looking at this child and saying, what does he need? Or how am I looking at my wife and saying, I expected this, that, and the next thing from my wife, but you know what? Certain times she needs, we need to have a little more chesed. We need to have a little more kindness, a little more compassion. And the examples go on and on. So like I said, this is a very big topic, and we're not going to be able to cover every single detail of it, but this is the basic point. To each person look in themselves and see, if I'm struggling with something, how am I going to take the passion in that struggle to turn it to good? In other words, you're an angry person. Don't destroy the anger. Turn the anger around into a positive thing. Take the passion of the anger, take the source of where the anger is coming from, and utilize that energy for goodness. And to bring it back to the parsha, because that's what we always try to do, this week's parsha starts off with the menorah. And the menorah was a big block made of pure gold, chiseled out to perfection. And above this menorah, we place 7 lights. What does this represent? Says the Hasidic masters. The menorah, the physical gold, the mixture zahav, the block of gold, is the person at his core. 100% pure, not touched, not messed around with. This is the core of the person. This is the essence of the person. A pure piece of gold, potential, energy, beauty, connection to Hashem. This is who I am. This is me at my core. The 7 lights represent my actions. What do you do with that core? How do you portray that core? How do you bring out that core to make yourself the best person you can be? How do you bring that core out to be the light that you could be into the world? Connect your connection to Hashem, your connection to others, to being the best person you could be. How do you portray who you are in the most enlightened way? And this is the service of the Beis Mikdash. Every day, take those candles out, take the lights out, clean it, because every day you might need a different way to do it. And every day, sometimes you're going to have to use a little bit more of the first light. Sometimes you have to use a little bit more of the second light, the Chesed, the Gevurah, the Tiferes. But whatever it is, find a way in every moment in a person's life to lahalois ner, b'halois ches aneros, to bring up your light in your way. So you have the core, you have the essence, and now you have to figure out how you're going to utilize that. And every situation might be different, and every scenario is going to be different depending who you're dealing with. You're dealing with your children, you're dealing with your wife, you're dealing in business. You're dealing with a particularly hard time. There's a crisis. There's a struggle. There's a major issue. Sometimes you're going to have to go to extremes, like the Rambam says, when you're dealing with your midot. You're going to have to sometimes do an extreme measure to be very, very focused on chesed, or very, very focused on gevurah, or very, very focused on the next thing, on your strength, on your power, on your will. But at the bottom line is that you want it to be balanced. Balanced for you, with the values, the abilities, the assets, the passions that Hashem put into you. And this is this idea through the message of the menorah, to take your core, to understand that at the core you are a beautiful being, you are all capable of doing your job in this world, and Hashem gave you exactly what you need. But it's your job to use your midot, your attributes and your character traits to bring out the greatest light that you could be in every moment.
Right, I thought Sephardi coming out even said midot.